Can you tell us what sex trafficking is?
He did not want to.
No, hell no.
It's good fine. If you say no, like if you say you don't know, it's fine.
No.
When you take someone against their will and force them to do sexual favors for other people.
Where you take other people and you use them for sex to make money, and it's against their will.
The buying and selling of humans without their consent.
Forcing someone to do sexual acts for money.
It's modern day slavery.
When somebody is basically forced into sexual slavery.
Where they abduct women or children, I guess, or males, and take them and make them do things they don't want to do.
What we're really talking about is paid rape.
Okay, we're rolling.
Okay.
Is it not working? Oh, where I can grab them.
Either way, you do your bro stuff.
Alright. No. What the fuck is acacia mean?
It's a type of flower.
Oh. Oh, Jesus.
I'm cold too.
She's not single, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm cold.
Can we sit here together?
Hello.
We did it!
Yep, that's us, trying to be productive.
We've been friends for 3 years now.
We met in one of our first film classes and we have been annoying each other ever since.
We never pass up an opportunity to educate people and ourselves on what's truly going on in the world.
Our shared interests in film, human rights, and activism led to making this documentary.
We didn't quite realize exactly what we were getting into when we chose the topic of sex trafficking.
We just knew that there is a common problem among injustices in the world.
They're not talked about enough, and when they are addressed, no one actually listens.
When people take the time to pay attention, they are quick to move on from the severity of the issue instead of trying to do something about it.
We get it. It's daunting, but you can't just ignore the problems in the world.
My name is Sophie Oswald.
I'm Madeleine Switzer.
Why do we care? So I can't really answer for Maddie.
It just blows my mind that there's people out there who can do such horrible things and not care about other people.
Exploitation is happening everywhere, all the time, and I think everyone needs to care.
There's so many people doing nothing about
It
it.
affects like every piece of life.
There's people getting raped, kidnapped.
It's happening to children.
Their lives are just stolen from them.
They're being forced into it. They're scared to leave.
Who's gonna help the people that need help if they don't have friends and family there to help them? So Topeka, Kansas is currently where I live.
And it's just a small city that it happens in.
Thinking about Kansas and people getting trafficked here, it's kind of mind-blowing.
It's insane that something as serious as sex trafficking happens everywhere.
People in my city are doing this to other people, and there's people here who need help but can't get the help because we don't have the resources.
We're trying to show that it can happen anywhere, at any time, to anyone.
It happens here in Topeka. It happens in every state of America. It happens every country in the world. So why isn't there more done about it? We're on our way to an interview. We're crossing the street. We gotta make sure we don't die. Oh my God, we're fine. We're interviewing Sharon Sullivan. Yeah, we got some lights and our camera.
I like it.
Do you want me to go get her? You want to pull out the laptops? Sure. You're gonna look just like right here.
Can you tell us who you are and what you do?
My name is Sharon Sullivan. I am a professor at Washburn University. My research and activism have been around violence against women and children my entire adult life.
Can you define sex trafficking?
Well, the legal definition is using somebody through force, fraud, or coercion for the purposes of selling sex. Force, fraud, and coercion are not required for children, of course, because children cannot consent to sex legally. So force, fraud, and coercion are not required. But what we're really talking about is paid rape, where most often people are under the control of another person, a trafficker or a pimp, who is forcing them to sell their bodies for the purposes of sex acts, and the person who is being sold doesn't get to keep any of the money. If they resist, they're often experience extreme violence. They often have quotas, which means that if they don't make their quota, they could either be stuck outside continuing to try to make more money, or they could be sent in to commit some other crime like shoplifting or selling drugs in order to make their quota for that day.
Who are these victims? Well, they're U.S. citizens and they're foreign nationals, and they're male and they're female. They're vulnerable simply because they're young.
There's no such thing as a child prostitute. No such thing. That's an abused child, okay? Because children legally cannot consent to sex. So that's why the law says no force, fraud, or coercion is required. I don't like the term sex worker, and it's because someone who had been victimized pointed out to me, what kind of job do you get beaten, stabbed, choked, raped? That's not a job. And I was like, you're absolutely right. I'm never going to call that work again. But growing up in the 80s and 90s in education, that's what we thought, that's what we were taught, that women were there because it was empowering to them. And it may be for some women, but for most people, that's not their experience. At the UN, they believe 99% of people are under a trafficker's control.
Traffickers can be anybody, all right? They can be U.S. nationals. There's a lot of gangs and organized crime getting into trafficking, because actually human trafficking is in the top 2 most lucrative crimes in the world right now. They think that it's at least a $32 billion industry. So the first is drugs, second, humans, third, weapons. Why? Because if I have a drug and I sell it to you, I have to go get more drugs. But if I have a child, I can sell it to every single person in this room over and over and over.
What we know about these men, what a few studies have been done, is what they all have in common is a lack of respect for women. Not seeing women and children as human beings, but as property or things to be used. And the sense of entitlement that those men carry when, with them every day impacts all of us, even if we're not being trafficked, right? So these are the same guys that are grabbing butts in the office and making lewd comments at the restaurants, and but they're also the people with power in our communities, right? Because one of the things about sex trafficking is you have to have some disposable income. So we're talking about doctors and lawyers and pastors and teachers and legislators and college men. So people with money are also the same people with power. We don't go after those people because they have power in our communities, right? There are lawmakers. They're the people that decide which laws are going to be enforced and which are not. They're the ones that decide who goes to court and who doesn't. So I think that's really problematic in a way, that the people with power are the same people driving sex trafficking.
Tara, you think that's how you say it?
It's either Tara or
It's
Tara.
either Tara or Tara. We haven't met her in person, so
We'll figure it out.
we'll get back to you. But she is, I forgot we have this camera. I was talking to that camera.
She is.
She's the psychologist we found, and she works with children 18 years and younger. So that's kind of why we picked her, because a lot of sex trafficking victims and survivors are young. We really wanted to get the psychology behind that.
We're so tired and sick.
So we're going to a therapist.
We don't know where we're going, so maybe we should stop filming.
We think it's this building, like right here, but like,
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
we don't know. And we're too awkward and anxious to just walk.
Yeah. We got 20 minutes though. We're doing okay on time here.
Can you just tell us who you are, what you do, what kind of clients you work with?
Sure. My name is Tara Wallace, and I am a licensed specialist clinical social worker. I work with primarily children, focused on trauma. My training primarily is in trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, and that is identified as one of the most effective treatments for sexual trauma in children. And so that is what I do.
Psychology tactics used by human traffickers. Oh, that's interesting.
Traffickers, for them, it's a power thing. Either it's a power thing or it's a manipulation thing, which represents power as well. If you can convince someone that what you're doing is not harmful or that it's the only choice that a person has, you have that sense of power over them to control their mind, to control their thoughts, to control their actions, to control how they see themselves, how they see others, to get them to go along with whatever it is that you're trying to do.
The goal of the trafficker is to own this person, mind, body, and soul. And they manipulate emotions, situations, love, feelings of love for a person. I mean, that's their goal, is to own that person. And so they'll do whatever's necessary to have total control over that person.
The majority of survivors suffer from a mental illness caused by the trafficker. Should we ask, like, I don't know, why do you think this is?
There may be some dissociation, there may be some depressive issues, there may be some anxiety issues, there may be some anger management issues. It can run the gamut depending on the type of environment the individual was in as a child, the things that they were told, the things that they experienced. There's a whole mixed bowl of diagnoses that can come out of sex trafficking, especially if they started as a child and the environment was so toxic that they never got anything positive out of it.
At least 90% of people in sex trafficking were abused before they were ever trafficked. And that's part of the grooming process, the beat down process, that says that someone else has control over you. Someone else has control of your body. You are not, you don't have any bodily integrity.
There's no scientific formula for how sex trafficking affects someone young, and then as they get older, and then how people respond to them because they have this anger or this low self-esteem, and then that builds onto that. And so it's almost like a cluster that's created as they get older because of what started back here.
How do genetics factor into this?
Because many sex trafficked victims, like many victims of violence, are from families with high prevalence of depression, schizophrenia, alcoholism, substance abuse, drug abuse.
In our genetic makeup, certain responses and certain chemical reactions to environmental things and physiological things happen in a child, and it's passed down from the parent. And so put a child in with that set of circumstances into a trafficking situation, and you don't know what you're going to get. It makes some individuals more susceptible to hearing things that a trafficker would say and not really saying, well, this doesn't feel right, and this doesn't sound right, this doesn't look right, maybe I should tell somebody.
we get to decide what we'll accept and what we won't accept. And I think right now a lot of people, of course, do not accept that, children being raped. But I've talked to a lot of people who have also said to me, well, did you see what she was wearing?
If you're somebody who leaves a hate comment about people, don't.
I just don't get why it's so hard for people to just like have a heart and like be a good person.
If she's naked walking down the street, it doesn't give you the right to touch her. It doesn't give you the right to rape her. But somehow we have this idea that, oh, if I think she's a bad person, then I'm entitled to do things to her. And that's pretty messed up.
Why don't people leave?
Yeah.
Because they're terrified and they're beaten or they're brainwashed, manipulated. So many reasons. There's nowhere for them to go. Like, that's the big one. If they run away, like, where do they go next?
I think that sometimes they feel like they don't have a way out or they don't have a plan to get out. They may not be able to contact anybody on the outside world. They may not have enough funds. They may be just physically unable to leave.
I feel as if they don't have the resources needed to get out of sex trafficking, as in they don't have the family support, they don't have anywhere they can go, so they feel as the only way they can continue is to continue as in sex trafficking.
There's lots of reasons. They're brainwashed. They think they can't leave. They think this is the best option for them. They don't see anywhere else to go. They don't have anywhere else to go. They don't have a home. They don't have a family. They don't have friends. They think this is their only option. Their pimp is their only person in their life. And that's why they don't leave. So let me just tell you, don't be a dumbass and leave comments like that. That's why they can't leave. Do some research and educate yourself. Start listening!
Your roommates are like, what the fuck?
No, they know. They're like, oh, there she goes. I think that people need to understand the culture of sex trafficking before they make those judgments about people wanting to stay in it or people, well, you should be able to just walk away. It's not that simple.
Most of us think, oh, we would never do that. You couldn't make us do that. And so when people say that, I just encourage them to think about under what situation you would do that.
You don't know what you don't know. It's hard for you to recognize that someone is being genuine if all you've known is this manipulation and this abuse of power.
It's unfair and unreasonable to think that we're so different. Be honest. If you can't feed your child and your child needs food and diapers, you're probably going to do whatever you have to do to get that kid food and diapers.
It seems easy. It seems like someone would want to get help and you would think that this is a bad situation, but if that's all you've known, that's what your life is. So you can't just automatically make that shift. It's not going to happen that way. It's not really going to happen at all.
We only get a certain amount of time on this planet, and I think that we should do our best to treat each other with respect and as human beings, because that's who we want to be. The question I get every week is it happening here? But is it happening in Topeka? What do you mean, it's happening in Topeka? And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. But nobody wants to believe that. And until you realize that it's part of your story, part of our story as a community, it's easy to overlook that. had several articles written about it in the newspaper, and it seems like every place I go, people are like, why aren't we talking about this? Why aren't you blasting this? And I'm like, I am. You're not listening.